Let me this guy.
I'll call to order the special city council meeting for November 16th, 2020. Everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call.
Steve Cherney is on his way.
Okay,
Kevin Kadada.
here.
Tim Rude.
Here.
Cindy Fier.
Here.
And Scott Palava. Here.
Okay, tonight's agenda just consists of one item, the city's final 2021 annual budget, and the additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda.
I move we approve the agenda.
Motion by Councilman Kadada,
Second.
second by Councilperson Fier. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. There are no minutes, no public hearings, on to presentation of citizens' petitions and comments. Comments limited to 2 minutes. Okay, nothing on the consent agenda. There was no old business. On to new business. Discuss the city's final 2021 annual budget. Mr. Erickson.
All right, thank you, Mayor and members of the council. This is the sixth and final meeting to discuss the 2021 budget prior to it being adopted, tentatively scheduled for the December 10th City Council meeting. There's nothing new in the packet. I like doing this meeting so we kind of have a review and everyone is on the same page when it comes to what was our TNT meeting, again scheduled for December 10th. The two decisions that really need to be made tonight. I contacted Rice County and got updated numbers from them. Over the last couple of years, we were running about 10% increase. We backed that down to 7, thinking that it would be a conservative enough number. Well, it actually came in at about 3.5% increase in valuations. So what that does is we had set the tax rate the same, and that generated what's around $150,000 in new tax revenue. Well, that was estimated at 7, so if we go to 3.5, that $150,000 is reduced in half down to $75,000. So one of the decisions tonight needs to be: are we going to keep the tax rate as proposed, which increases the? I'm sorry. Are we going to keep the levy as proposed at about that $150,000, which will result in our tax rate increasing, or reducing the levy? And which would result in keeping our tax rate consistent at the 54.058. And then when we get to it, the other decision is increase of water rate. So
I guess basically what you're saying, we either need to cut 75,000 if we're going to say keep the same tax rate, or we raise the tax rate to keep the same levy, is what you're.
correct.
Right. Okay.
Yep.
So really,
And
that's
that decision needs to be made
right.
essentially now before we get into the rest of the meeting.
Right. Yeah. So yeah.
Thank you. Excuse me, sorry.
So, okay. Well, I don't know. I mean, ideally, you'd like to keep the tax rate the same, but I think you almost need to keep the levy the same since you got it balanced to that dollar amount already.
A balanced budget versus warm fuzzies are
Right.
two different things.
Right.
I agree.
Right. Right. So I mean, if there's a consensus, that already solves that. I mean, that's
I
probably
really think that's what we should
I
do.
think we need to, adjust that number, get that 75 back and use the other version of the budget without the, whatever you've done to,
You need
To
a
delete.
motion, Kim, on that?
not tonight. We don't, right? But I think staff just needs
Oh,
it for the
okay.
December 10th
I see.
meeting.
Oh, it's 17.
Yeah.
Fine.
So I guess basically, if there's a consensus on that,
Yeah.
we'll just
Yeah.
ride with what we have. Okay. I think the bigger issue, which you're going to talk about now, is the water bill. Unless you're more on this here.
Correct. No, that decision was made. And then I just real briefly just wanted to to hit the main points of each department, then we can wrap up with water rate discussion, and really that should be the end of the meeting. I would anticipate we're out easily by 7 o'clock, so. Yeah, so the rest of them are just kind of a review. Wages and insurance, recommended that wages be increased by 3.5%. It actually decreases the total amount budgeted for wages by a little over 27,000, because we had a on-staff building inspector. So we don't have to account for those wages. Wages are proposed at just under 1.58 million. It's proposed to increase the overall pay scale by 3.5%. The options would be move over a step for years of service at the 3.5, or just increase the overall pay scale by 3.5. My recommendation is increase the overall pay scale. This way it, as best it can, keep up with inflation, so our pay scale is current and we're not having to dump, the first 2 or 3 or 4 years of service to get up to a decent starting wage for whether it's liquor store clerk, police officer, city hall, public works. Health insurance, those increased. I believe we had a $2,000, $3,000, and $4,000 plan. The deductible for the $2,000 increased to $2,500. That increased a little over 2% in value or premium. The $3,000 plan up to 5.69% increase, and then the $4,500 plan increased 1.19%. It's a city policy to provide health insurance for all full-time employees and pay the respective deductible. Family coverage is limited to the cost of 1 child and a family deductible of $5,000. For 2021, is proposed to budget just under $268,000 for health insurance. That would be premiums and HSA contribution. The proposed budget does not fund insurance for part-timers. Based off of the last meeting, the estimated cost of this for the employee, it would be 2 employees, would be about $17,600, and if dependent coverage was provided, it would increase to over $33,000. City Council, based off of 24 regular and 15 special meetings, and discussion was no attendance at the league's conference. Administration, revenues and expenses are consistent with budgeted 2020.
Your Honor?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, can I ask you a question before we go on?
Sure.
Joe, jumping back up for the proposed budget does not fund insurance. We had a discussion about insurance for, let's see, Mary Jo, I believe, is our part-time. Is that correct, in our office?
At City Hall, and then Jessica Bratz works, I would say actually even more hours than
Right.
Mary Jo does.
Yeah, I didn't, Council, am I remiss? I didn't think we reached a decision on that, did we, as far as what we were going to do there? I thought we were kind of kick that around about.
Yeah, well, this says that the budget does not fund them.
Well, I'm not talking about that, Scott. I'm
Okay.
talking about, we had a discussion, and I don't remember any subsequent discussions that we reached a resolve to use this not. You guys remember having that discussion about it? But nothing was resolved, I don't think.
I thought it ended at part-time help doesn't get insurance. I thought
Well, that's what this says, but I didn't remember it that way. Did you guys?
Well, I guess if the council, there was discussion about it,
Right.
staff look into it.
Right.
I don't, even at the $150,000 of increased tax revenue, something is gonna have to be cut to provide insurance to part-timers.
So when you say cut, you mean the 75 grand because of the dropping from 7 to 3%? Is that the?
No, the levy's gonna stay at the $150,000.
Okay.
Even with the
Tax rate will
$150,000.
go up.
Right.
So the tax rate, okay, that's fine, so we're gonna capture that 75,
Right,
right?
right.
So there's
Correct.
nothing going to be cut. I still,
I wonder if we should, it's kind of at such a late date, I wonder if that should be something that's, maybe we consider for next year, to analyze the whole,
I think that's reasonable,
Oh,
Tim, but I don't want it to get swept under the rug,
Right.
because these folk,
Right.
you know how I
Right,
feel,
yeah.
okay,
That's
all
right.
right.
I think it should be, certainly addressed in next year's, policies and budget process and all that kind of stuff. But I do agree with you, it depends, you gotta treat your employees. as we
Yes,
all know,
yes, and they've been long-standing. Thank you, Your Honor. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Administration, as I said, revenues and expenses are consistent with budgeted 2020. The main, probably larger ticket item that comes out of there is mosquito control. And as discussed, we're keeping it the same, chemical, not organic. And then I included some proposed expense reductions, but we don't need to talk about those.
Joel, if I may, Your Honor, if I may.
Sure.
Joel, are we dropping the pellets in the ponds with this mosquito control
Yep.
plan?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Okay.
Planning and zoning, building permit review is based off of historical and 2020 year-to-date. Back a few years ago, we took our LGA, whatever we got, divided it by 5, and allocated it to 5 of the 6 general fund departments, the library being the one that we didn't provide LGA to, rather allocated additional property tax revenue to offset that. Not all of the funds allocated to planning and zoning are necessary. So when I did this, I allocated that balance to road and bridge to offset some of these what were potential cuts to additional property tax revenue. The professional services would be to pay for the city code be on the website, hosted on our website, recording of documents and general services. Engineering's building permit review, and then $5,000 for the Highway 19 and County Road 2 and 8th Avenue Northeast intersection coordination with MnDOT. Dues and subscriptions consist of DataLink and Esri, which is the city subscribes to GIS. Building permit software was previously budgeted, but we used CARES funding for that, and we actually prepaid for 3 years and used the CARES funding instead of, I think it's just under 6,000, 53 or 5,400 per year, so we were able to capture some of that funding. Refunds and reimbursements are for the return of any unused funding from land use escrows.
Excuse me, Joel, do we have any of those outstanding, these reimbursements? Return?
Yep.
How many dollars do you think we have in that? Approximately?
Oh, 4,000.
Oh, okay, so it's not $50,000 or something like that. Okay,
No, not for land use escrows.
okay, thank you.
Police, staff of 7 full-timers, 2 part-timers, and 1 office staff. This budget, well, quite frankly, all department budgets are as basic as they get. Some of the stuff that the chief and I had talked about, purchasing computers, tasers, these items were purchased with CARES funding, less contact, touch points, sharing of equipment. The EDA, their focus in 2021 will be implementing initiatives that come from the Business Retention and Expansion Program. There's a leadership meeting actually tomorrow. The review is done, so we'll get to see the results of the surveys. I can't remember in that email how many they said, but I would say we were close to 35 surveys we got done.
I would suspect if there's new businesses that come to town, there'd still be programs or assistance or
Yep.
opportunities and all that.
Your Honor, do you know if do we have any TIF planned at all in 2021? Or Joel, do we have any?
We do not, short of the Villages of Lonsdale.
That's the only one.
'Cause I
Correct.
think the new entity is basically going to be a
Cash,
line,
cash,
yeah,
okay.
buyer, right?
Okay, thank you.
The next one is the library. The city's minimum Local support requirement is just over 74,000, and that's dictated to us by the Department of Education, and that amount represents about 90% of the official 2011 state certified level of library support. I don't know off the top of my head what that levy amount is, but we are well above the 75,000. What are we at here? Library. As proposed tonight, 117,375. So well in excess of what our minimum requirement is. Going through the budget, I did work with the library director to use 20,000 of the library fund balance. They were closed for 3 months. I'm not sure if that's the exact amount of time. Earlier this year due to COVID. When we were working through this, we agreed 20 grand would be a sufficient amount because they should have that fund balance remaining because they were closed for several months.
Joel, how does that work now with them being closed again? How are wages covered or not covered?
Well, that's something that is gonna be coming to the city council. We will have some CARES funding remaining that I was anticipating using for law enforcement COVID mitigation. That seems to be the track that most people are going with their unspent amount. But I was anticipating using some of that to offset our costs. It's been a while since we looked at this, but I've got to see if the federal law where we're required to provide 80 hours of paid leave, if that was for 1 year or if it's ongoing. And that's gonna be a policy decision. That's gonna have to make a recommendation to the city council. I know of some businesses that you got to go. You're sick. Okay, you're getting tested for COVID. Well, the employee thinks that they're gonna get the paid time off because it's COVID related. Well, then their test result comes back negative, and I've heard of employers saying, "No COVID money for you. You got to use your sick time." Right. So at some point, we're gonna have to, come up, maybe make that same recommendation to the council. If it's COVID, we pay for it. If not, we don't. Use your sick time. If you've got, if you're maxed out on your sick time or you've got a couple hundred hours, it's not the end of the world. But if you're just started or, have recently been sick or have a low balance,
Right.
So how does it work now with the library? Now, the library will be closed for the next 2 weeks, and no one. I mean, does that fall under CARES, like unemployment type of things, or how? I guess I don't remember how it worked.
We were not
When
doing
it first
unemployment. We were paying them, and we reimbursed ourselves with the CARES funding that we received.
Okay.
So, this really all happened Friday afternoon. So, we haven't even talked to the director. So, we've Tammy and I have coordinated with other staff there, just to get it closed and go get tested. And I'm glad I said closed and go get tested because was the right decision.
Okay.
Professional services are down slightly, just due to less anticipated expenses. Dues and subscriptions are increased to account for leasing of 8 new computers. That's a 3-year lease program. And then, the expenses were not needed to talk about. Debt service, property tax levies are sufficient to cover the debt service payments, with the other revenues, essentially special assessments. Though the point that I wanted to hit hard here is that we've budgeted a little over $24,000 for interest for the 2021 interest payment for the police facility. In 2022 to 42, that number is going to be between $135,000 and $150,000. So if we equate that to this year, $150,000, that's this payment. So, just something that we'll have to be thinking about. And it's either going to be, well, I guess you had really 2 options. cut expenses or raise the levy.
What year is the next big loan paid off from street project or sewer?
I would have to look, I know we refunded one of them, but, I mean, really, I would say probably Second Avenue, Northwest. I think that was-
Wastewater plant is 23 or 24? 23?
The wastewater plant, the final payment would be in 23, so you'd realize the savings in 24.
Right.
Water plant, I believe, is 32. I think it was 2012 to 2032. But really, Second Avenue, I think we did that in, 2012 and 13. And I think maybe we took a year off and then jumped, we did areas, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then Second Avenue this year, so. You're out, 2012, 18, halfway through that 2012 payment. But the tax levy, I mean, on the debt service ranges is from, what do we got here? 31,000 to 67,000. Well, so those, no one likes assessing people, no one likes being assessed, but that really helps out.
Oh, for sure.
If you're looking at a, $2.2, $2.4 million project that this tax levy is paying 100% of, jumps up to that, 135 to 150. Park and Rec, the main revenues are property tax levy, LGA, and then the two leases we have for our cell towers, T-Mobile and Verizon. It is proposed to transfer $50,000 from the liquor fund. That would be the second half of the $100,000 to help pay for the Trichka Park projects. Professional services are grinding the tree branches at the compost site and getting that out of there, and then general tree removal. Rentals are for porta potties and equipment. I believe we have a handicapped porta potty at every park, and then one year-round at the JC Park. So I want to say we're almost pushing $10,000 in porta potty rentals a year. There's no funding proposed for trails. The thought behind that is Trichka Park gets completed, and then we're either to trails or something else.
Excuse me, Joel, how much money by not doing the trails, what are you allocating there? 10,000, 50,000? What kind of money are we talking?
I would say that it varied, but 25 to 50,000 probably.
25 to 50. Will the trails still be maintained for safety purposes? Like we do the trails here, and we still have to keep those babies up, right?
I think the main part that Joel's talking about is in Willow Creek where the gravel is and the ones that have the muskrat problems.
Well, Kevin, I'm talking in general, the trail, the 13.3 miles of trails, we still have to maintain it,
Yes.
and we're going to do that,
Yes.
is that correct?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, I just don't want people thinking we're gonna let those go.
No.
Okay. All right, if that's true, that's good. Okay, thank you. That's all I have then, Joel, on that.
Trichka Park, the city planner and the park board attended the budget meeting on July 16th to review that project. Again, revenue, $50,000 transfer from Lonsdale Liquor. And then the funds would be budgeted for completion of the parking lot, sidewalks, and any restoration not completed. We've estimated the project cost about $160,000 to complete that project. Water, revenues are generally consistent with historical data. Up until this meeting, we were anticipating or budgeting for 35 homes.
No.
I want to say we're at 25 right now. I did lower that to 30. We don't use that funding for anything else than pay the debt service, but just trying to be a little more realistic in what we're anticipating. Water sales, as proposed, are budgeted at $545,000, again, based off of historical and in 2020 year-to-date. That number does not include any rate increase discussed or approved tonight. As of now, the water fund's projected to run an operating deficit of about $106,000. The only revenues that are accounted for are water sales, and then to a substantially lesser extent, new meter sales. I mean, that's probably $6,000 out of the $545,000, so it's essentially water sales. With just under 1,600 accounts billed this month, it would take an average increase of $67 a month, or just under $560 a month, to make that up.
67
a year. Year. You said a month, but okay.
Right,
It's
okay.
$550 a month.
I was gonna say, holy smoke, I'm moving.
Yeah, yeah.
Still cheaper than Montgomery.
Oh, that's good. You did that on purpose.
$67 a year, and then $560 a month. For every $1 increase in the base fee, just over $19,000 is generated annually, and then for every 25-cent increase in the per 1,000 gallons, just over $33,000 is generated, and that's based off of an average use of 7,000 gallons a month. So I do have in there the current fees. We charge $12 a month. That's the base fee, whether you use no water or 1,000,000 gallons. And then 0 to 3,000 is $325, 3,000 to 6,000 is $340, and then 6,000 to 9,000 is $365. With anything over 9,000 being billed at $390. Proposed rates, the base fee increased by $2 to $14 a month, and then each of the per 1,000 gallon rates are proposed to increase 50 cents a month, or 50 cents per 1,000 gallons. So if you used 7,000 gallons, you would see the $2 increase in the base fee, and then $3.50 increase in the per total on the 7,000 gallons. And then I did include the graph or the chart later in the packet, but for comparison, now we'd be looking at our 2021 rates compared to the 2020 rates, but that's all we have. We're still $45 less than New Prague, $60 less than Montgomery, $24 less than Elko New Market, $51 more than Lakeville, and then $34 more a month than Prior Lake. So,
Just to clarify, so this 105, that includes depreciation?
it does include depreciation.
Okay. And how much is that roughly
In my
Just
chart, I have 170,000.
for depreciation?
Yep. And then,
So I mean, just on a cash basis, you're profitable. It's just when you factor depreciation.
correct.
100 grand, right.
So, yeah, and
That's right.
I wanted to tie this to the audit page that we look at rates. So then, the principal payment made on projects isn't accounted for. You won't even see that in the sewer as an expense. It's just credited against the liability, but you still have to make money to be able to credit it against the liability.
Yeah.
Joel, on the capital side of depreciation for this guy, when will it be fully depreciated then? I mean, are we 10 years into it, 5 years into it, 20?
We constructed the water plant, I believe, in 2012.
So we're 8 years into it.
Yep.
So are you,
But
oh, go ahead.
But every time there's a street project, there's new water main, new services.
Oh, so you
That's
constantly
all-
have
every-
that
every
influx
street
of
project we
capital going
do.
in there. Okay, that explains it.
You keep
Okay,
adding.
that
to
explains
Or I
it.
shouldn't say adding, but it doesn't go down just, no sewer.
Right, it's
treatment plant.
connected here and you're adding new capital and therefore it's a whole depreciation account for, okay, got it.
So
got
I
it.
mean, we should address this item since we're here.
Just, so the depreciation is 170, like you're saying, cash basis, right?
Right.
But our debt service payments are 188,000. So by funding that depreciation, you're essentially funding the debt service payments that year.
Okay, we should have thoughts on that. So basically, what you're saying, this proposed rates, does that cover the 105 in total?
It does, yes.
Okay.
So the train of thought, Tim, or can I go, Tim?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So the 105 deficit, with this proposal and knowing what projects we have before us over the next, I'd like to use 5 years, but I can't because we don't go out 5 years. We only go out 1 year, it looks like. But what's it looking like if we put these in place now? Are we going to be faced with another deficit then in a year from now because we're going to do more capital projects that involve sewer and water? The point I'm trying to get at, Your Honor and Council, is that knowing what we're going to have going forward here, rather than every year we kind of chip away, well, if we could project with some certainty to levelize these over a period of time, levelize these water rates, maybe it should be $1 instead of 50 cents. Maybe it should be $1.25. Maybe it should be, instead of every year, well, gee, I don't know what we're going to pay, That's what I'm trying to get to.
I mean, if you're basing it just on water sales, that's a little bit fluid, right? In a dry year, wet year.
Right, and that's a factor too.
We like dry years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking
The
too.
DNR
maybe raise
doesn't,
the
but we
base a little more.
See, that's what I like, Kevin.
Right, right.
Yeah, I agree
Go
with
to
that.
$15 for the base. I
I
don't.
mean, the base is a solid number that
Right.
you can
levelize.
conserve all you want and save on the per gallons, but the base is where we kind of make the money.
And
So
also,
it's the
there's
base, it's
certainty in
the
the
guar-
numbers
it's the
too. It's
guarantee.
$15.90. and
Exactly.
that's-
So basically, it's the base in the first 3,000 gallons generally.
Yes. So getting back to the original question, that's probably too big to hack right now, but I like Cindy's idea, or Kevin's idea of taking that base up to help levelize this thing.
Do we raise the base and leave the per gallons?
I think we would do both kind
I-
of as projected here,
Yes.
in my
Okay.
mind.
Would you try and cover that whole 105?
Yes,
Would you try to do?
I think so.
Okay.
with a little bit to spare, going forward.
I guess, yeah, the other theory is too, I mean, there's a lot of theories to conserve water too. It's kind of a double-edged sword, you get all. So I mean,
Right,
it
the
really.
DNR does want to see tiered rates, right?
Yeah.
The more you use,
Right,
the
right.
more
The
you
high-
pay.
That's my point. The higher end user probably should be paying more if they're using, 10,000 gallons a month or whatever. I mean, I don't know, I mean, I kind of actually like what you got proposed there, I guess.
Now, when was our last rate increase?
I don't know, I would say 3 years,
It's been a little bit.
2 years, 3 years.
And even then, it was pretty minimal.
Right.
Just increase the base rate.
Yeah, and if we did anything, it was what the base fee by
Would you support
a buck.
Okay.
increasing the base?
I think so. I do know that this is usually a touchy subject.
It is.
In the
It
community.
is. We
It
always
is.
have a hard time with this, yes.
Right.
Not using
Well-
more taxes or anything.
Yep.
At least when it's water, I mean, it was a couple years ago, but, well 5 was $1 million well. I mean, that's, so it's not only, that was half the cost of the water treatment plant.
So
know,
I think the
that's out
basic
for
question is,
15
do we
years.
want to try and cover the whole 105? Is that what we're? Or are you trying?
I think that would
With-
be smart.
With the levy at the 150.
Some important thing too is we have good water now.
Right.
If we were doing this, trying to do this 12 years ago, which we had to, but, say, 15 years ago, there would be no way in heck that anybody would.
Right, that's right. That's
Would
right,
be-
right, with the rust and the.
Yeah, but now our
hydrogen.
water is better than stuff you get out of the bottles.
In the old parts of town that we've been reconstructing, we've been doing full water service repair, removal and reinstall, so they're
Right.
benefiting there too.
Right.
That's into this number as well.
So do you want a motion for just the water, or are you just gonna factor it in the keyboard motion at the end?
Yeah, I'll just factor it in because we'd actually approve the rates in January with our fee schedule.
Okay. So the consensus is to go with the proposed rates? Is that what you?
Well,
I'm fine with that.
I ask, Your Honor, I'd like to revisit Kevin's notion of that base increasing and then using these proposed rates. I like that because as Cindy mentioned, or Kevin brought it up, that's a consistent number. It helps levelize any of this influx.
I mean, so what, I guess I'm not following. Are you gonna do the base increase like this proposed here?
Yeah, I would like to do this 12, move it up to some number. And Kevin said, what about 15? So we take that up to 15, and then we also use the rates that's proposed here, the 50-cent increase here. So the change in this proposal would be, to Kevin's point about increasing the base. And
I mean, I like the idea of covering what we need.
I was just gonna say, I think for this meeting, we just need to know if we wanna cover the 105, right? I mean, just to get on budget, because we actually
Right.
don't set our rates till January, correct?
Right.
Correct, but I would use what,
yeah, he would
It was
use
decided
what we,
tonight.
tonight, so.
Right.
I guess,
Into
right, so
January.
that's the question that you guys have, is do you want to use what he has proposed to cover the 105?
Could
Or
you
if you
call,
go- go ahead.
could you call that, Your Honor, as far as Kevin's point? In other words, if I made a motion to
Well, we don't
increase the
need a-
base,
right.
but I know we don't,
Okay.
but I'm just as a matter of
Right.
discussion, could we call that, see what the council thinks of it on an individual
Well, yeah, I
basis?
mean, it's whatever. I guess I don't know if we want to, if you raise the base and raise the 50 cents, now you're collecting more than you need. And I don't know if that's fair. I mean, you know, the big picture, but, I mean, you know, people are going to ask, well, why did you raise water? I mean, they will ask that. That's kind of a sore subject. And we're going to say, well, we have 105 debt, and we're just covering what we need to cover the
Right,
costs.
and I would come back and further say to that point that rather than the address on an annual basis be subjecting you to possibly rate increases every year, that increasing the base because we have capital projects related to water going forward here, that helps levelize that so we possibly next year wouldn't have to raise it. And that's how I'd answer that, Your Honor.
Yeah, and it's still, it's fluid, you know, if you get a dry year, then you're going to be.
That's true too, but you know, that's an act of God, and
Yeah,
so I can't.
Yeah.
But I would, you know,
I like the proposed rates that he's got.
I like covering the deficit,
Right.
you know, for sure. Whether it's,
well, we would do that.
right, whether it's
Yeah.
just, you know, doing it as proposed or doing it more of the base fee and not, you know, raising the per gallon fee, you know, basically just so the deficit is covered, you know.
I think
deficit.
you want to
Yeah.
charge the high-end user though, I
Right.
think, don't you?
Absolutely.
You know, but,
Well,
what say you guys?
You know, we're not, although it's an enterprise fund, we're not a for-profit. So, you know, I get nervous about having too much.
Right.
Same thing, I mean, why don't we just raise the tax levy and, you know, whatever we have left over, we just hang on to, you know, moving down the road. So, yeah, I'd agree with the proposed right now.
I'm going to
Okay.
stand.
I know we don't want to have to be doing this every year, and we haven't raised for a few years, so I guess I can go with either the proposed or, you know, maybe that 15 on the base. I mean, who likes to sit here and raise their, you
Every
know,
year.
raise rates for themselves? We all are sitting here, it affects
Yeah.
us all, but we gotta look at, you know, what's best for Lonsdale. So, I can go with either one.
Well, yeah, I'm going to stand. I like Kevin's initial idea, and I like the levelization. And I don't mind, Scotty, over collecting, because what happened, you know, that's a whole giant discussion. If it was lack of diligence in doing that, then I would say, but we hone this thing pretty good. And
Well, I think Scott hit the nail on the head, that we're not a for-profit business. And these are
Well, but-
taxpayers' money, you know, I
But-
think we cover the,
well, Your Honor, I'm going to debate you on it quick.
well, you certainly can, I mean, we've, you know. we've
Well,
dealt with
I
this
realize
issue.
we're not for profit, but I also realize we're not for deficit. When I go through the budget and I see budget items on a department basis that are running negative because of budgetary constraints that were either too tight or something.
Okay, so how are you gonna,
So-
the sewer fund's gonna have a surplus.
Yes.
Are you gonna cut the sewer rate?
I would strongly look at that, Your Honor.
Yeah.
Seriously, that's just like when the sewer, well,
I would say, I think the main point I was getting at, I would like to see more of the base fee increased and the per gallons. You know,
Would-
high-end users get more,
you know,
pay more. But for right now, I think the biggest part is, I'm in favor for covering the deficit. You know, we can figure it out in January, how we want to tier it, in my mind.
well, Kevin, let's ask Joel this question. If you take that base up to $15 and then tweak those other rates, can you cover the council's concern regarding kind of levelizing and yet making the high, to the mayor's point about the high cost causer pays?
Well, yeah, I think what you do is if you increase the base fee, then you would look at not as much, maybe
There you go.
25 cents.
22 cents or
Increase
something?
per thousand on the, maybe 0 to 6.
Okay. That's what we're really after. I
Well,
think.
right, it just, you're kind of giving a break to the high-end user, is basically what you're doing.
Well, but I'm saying.
With the base fee.
Right.
With the
That's
base,
what-
with the base fee are, right?
Right. And the reason we've kept the base fee typically as low as we can is just because of the seniors and the young families. You know, and if they try to conserve water, they're able to keep it, the price down. And that's been kind of an ongoing issue for a long time.
I'd like
That
the
makes sense
council,
to me.
I'd like
You
the
know.
council to really look at that policy and kind of, it's hard. It's definitely hard when you have these policies that are working but the community's changing, as we know, and we're growing, and I don't want to be putting out fires, Your Honor, none of us do.
Well, and I don't think that's the case, you know, myself. I just think, especially in this environment, with the unemployment, the COVID, and all that kind of jazz, I mean, I think we've been pretty cognizant on the taxes. I mean, we had 6, 7 meetings. And now I don't think we should just say, well, let's just start raising stuff just for the sake of raising stuff.
Well,
I think we just want to cover our cost of operations, you know.
Your Honor, let me ask you this, would you mind if Joel would take a look at the base going up and then tweaking, instead of 50 cents or 25 cents, kind of tweaking the usage side of it?
Well, you sure can. I mean, he already has the base going up.
But I mean, taking it up to the $15 that
Right,
was
so,
thrown out
right,
there.
so really the trade-off then, is all I'm saying, Steve, is if you
Yeah.
raise the base, you're kind of penalizing the low-end user or the seniors or the young families. And you're giving the high-end users a break. And typically, you want to promote conservation, typically, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, and I can't disagree with you.
Yeah, I mean,
I
you know,
can't
it's,
disagree with you.
I think the general consensus, we're all trying to get to the same point.
Yes, we are.
You know,
We
we're all-
we
it's just
are.
how you get there.
Covered the
Yeah.
I think we've had a great, robust discussion here this evening.
Okay.
Okay, thank
Is
you.
robust as the meeting?
That's the word
meeting?
tonight. That's
Okay.
the,
All right. So I think you got the gist, Joel. I guess the point is, you know, whatever is the best between what we're saying to cover the nut, you know.
yeah.
Okay?
Okay. As far as the sewer revenues, again, consist of sales and new home connection fees. Other revenues would be utility inspections, interest, and new home meter sales. Chemicals are for the treatment plant and grounds. Repairs and maintenance, general maintenance, manhole sealing, and then 3 sanitary sewer line repairs. Those deep sewers on 4th and 11th Northeast. I think I have in there $50,000 for each of those.
And that's a precautionary in case it happens, or that is scheduled to happen?
We would propose that it be scheduled.
Okay.
We fixed one on 4th. You know, that property still doesn't have curb and gutter. And I think there's one right to the south. And then one on 11th, I believe one of those is for sale. So that is going to be an issue.
Yeah.
And these aren't just,
So
Yeah, you're-
have they
you're
collapsed
around.
already or not yet?
partially.
I think most of them are king, some are damaged. We got video of them, but I'm talked about in our public works meeting, that I'd like to meet with John and discuss on trying to put bid packages on individual ones. Because the ones that we need to work on now, there's gonna have to be probably water main removed, storm sewer removed, temporary water, because the repair is right under the water main. Where the other side of the street that were done didn't have that storm sewer and didn't have water main.
So I assume that what's gonna happen, right, so this house is for sale, are you gonna allow them to close?
Yes.
Okay, so and will the buyer be aware of the situation? Or will somebody make them aware, or how is that gonna play out?
Oh, yeah, it'll come out in the inspection
Okay.
that we do.
I guess that's my point, I don't want somebody to buy a house, and, what the heck, I got a collapsed sewer line, you know. Somehow somebody's gotta notify it, and maybe it's not our job, but still it's
None of
kind
these
of our job.
properties have had issues with backups yet, but
Right.
there is potential.
I mean, I think the potential should be known.
Yep, it's noted in our utility
Okay.
inspections and they're provided at closing too, or when they're done to
Okay,
to the parties.
okay.
Professional services is biannual biosolids. We're proposing some jetting and televising of the sanitary sewer, and then remainders for PSN, Go for One, things like that. Engineering is general and updates to data link mapping. Depreciation in this fund is $195,000. Capital outlay is 50% of new meters, meter reader, and then meters from new homes and the replacement plan. Debt service is the water treatment plant, the 17-18 street projects. I don't believe that there is a payment on the 20. Interest, it's minimal. And then the interest is on the wastewater treatment plant and the 17, 18, and 20 projects.
Oh, it is.
Transfers consist of the sewer portion of the street projects paid out of the respective debt service funds, which are the 300s. And the sewer is projected to generate an operating revenue of just under $50,000. And again, like the water, only revenue accounted for is sales. All expenses are accounted for with the exception of debt service principal and interest. Net change in position prior to transfers is anticipated to be about $175,000. And like I said earlier in the meeting, the auditors move those principal payments out of there. They don't even show up as an expense. It's just credited against the liability on an earlier page of the audit.
So you're recommending to leave the sewer rates the same?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
And that is based off of discussion that we had at prior meetings when we were talking sewer or levy. You know, you offset, you raise the levy, lower the sewer, keep them the same. And the thought was keep them the same until the sewer plant's paid off. And then in 2024, decide how that,
Okay.
at least as of right now, about $400,000 annually is spent.
Right, and basically this thing is make an operating profit of 49,000, is that what it's, 49
Correct.
change, okay. Okay. Thoughts on that? Good with that?
I think we're good.
Okay,
You know, we have one more sewer break and the 49,000 is gone.
Yeah.
Really,
Yeah.
I mean,
That's right.
so.
Plus.
yeah, that's right. Okay,
The liquor store manager and I met, finalized the proposed liquor budget. 2020 cost of goods, sales of beer, liquor, and wine will all be outliers this year considering COVID. So we relied more on historical data than 2020. Margins, obviously, very important. Will need to be increased as needed because expenses continue to increase. Currently, we've set margins historically, and then also where we feel they need to be to run the business profitably. Lottery's being accounted for both as a revenue as an expense. Professional services are up slightly and consist of security, pest control, rug and floor cleaning, and we have a HVAC service agreement in place. Depreciation is expected to decrease on the historical trend. Dues and subscriptions are our Minnesota Municipal Beverage Association membership, tech support in Minnesota, the chamber, and social media archiving. Donations, the Lonsdale Liquor is, I don't know if always, but for as long as I can remember, paid for the porta potties for community days. I guess we'll see if there's a community days. Association fees based off of historical. Property taxes for the association have decreased. With the last plat that was done, they substantially reduced the value of some of those lots out there. Ash Street's is a private road, so there's taxes due on that, but they were dropped dramatically. And I called to confirm, you're not going to send us another bill, are we missing something, you're not going to readjust these? Nope, this is what they're at. Earlier in the meeting, we've talked about the $50,000 transfer to the park fund. And then even with that transfer, the store is still projected to make a profit. Yeah.
I have a question for Joel. Joel, does this 21 budget Would that still allow, through profits, to obtain like a pallet jack and some of the landscaping requests that the manager has requested over there? Can we still do some of those things?
If minimal landscaping, probably. The cost of a pallet jack, I'm not sure what.
I don't know what they cost, but she's not getting any spring chicken. And we've talked, she keeps putting it off, and I said, one of these days you're gonna hurt your back. And I just, we might just have to just say, you're getting it, period. Just bite the bullet. I can't imagine. Tim, what was something like $3,000?
I don't know.
I would think that would cover it.
So.
I don't know off the top of my head, but, the liquor fund probably has a fund balance of,
220,000 or something?
Liquor fund
yeah, I
should
would
have
say
that.
all of that.
So I just want to make sure that it's not, we can still.
Well,
do
I
that.
think, especially on the safety issue, like you say,
Yes.
you don't want to get hurt. Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. Okay. Okay, that's all I have.
The last,
You could pick up just a decent used pallet jack, $300.
Is it a power one?
Well, you want to?
Yeah, I want a power
Oh, I'm
one,
sorry.
sorry, I'll press it.
Yeah, okay, so.
I do have to think $3,000 is.
Yeah, I
plenty
think
for that.
$3,000.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good, that's a good one. We might just, you're
Yeah,
getting it.
A 6,000 pounder walk behind electric is $1,000.
Oh, my gosh, okay, well,
So.
geez, that's, Christmas is coming, I mean. Okay.
so the,
right, Joe,
I guess the
keep it
last,
moving.
Yeah, C's gonna go under pretty quick here.
last fund to review, Road and Bridge. As I said before, more LGA is allocated to Road and Bridge, due to just trying to balance the budget. I guess we'll see how that plays out with the decisions made tonight. Proposed street maintenance for next year is skim patch on Dogwood Street Northeast. Crack filling, we put material only because we count for rentals under a different line item. Installing drain tile on the east side of Willow Creek Drive Southeast. Mill and overlay of Industrial Park Drive. $7,500 for catch basin repairs, $2,000 for crosswalk painting, $1,000 for any sidewalk repairs, $20,000 for patching. Long term, the fund is budgeted to have a surplus of just over $83,000, which is 1/3 of a new plow truck to be purchased in '23
Okay.
at a cost of $250,000.
I think they were about 115,000 when I started this gig.
That's right. I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. Yeah, everything's high, jeez.
So that essentially wraps up the review of the departments. I mean, obviously, every decision has a fiscal impact when we're talking the budget.
So-
It's really not much of an alternative. It's
So
gotta
do you
be
know what
approved.
the tax rate will be upon the same levy? I mean, it's probably within a point, I suppose, or something like that, probably.
It was.
Anyway.
What do we need to be
Maybe it's
at?
just a rounding.
2, 4, 1.
It's gonna be less, I think, than a percent.
Well, it's,
It's-
let's see, 2, 2,
0.67.
4, 1, 250. The tax rate, let's see, goes up to 55.9.
Okay,
Oh, that's higher.
all right, it's about a point,
Yep,
yeah.
you're right.
Okay,
But, yeah, a point, when you look at some of the properties that we're tracking, basically if you had, the savings that was projected to be before at the 7%, I mean, you're talking, well, probably for the typical house, a difference of $30 to $50 a year. I would say that 50 is probably pretty conservative.
so do we have a consensus on that then, the taxes and the water
Yep.
rate, or just how we get to the rate?
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine.
Anything else?
I do not have anything else, Mayor.
Okay, Vikings are on.
Uh-oh.
Shouldn't be losing yet. I don't think.
Oh, that'd be more fun to sit here.
Okay,
I make a motion to close this meeting if I need one.
motion by Councilman Cherney,
Second.
second by Councilman Palava. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That concludes a very robust meeting.
Oh, don't ask me how to spell it, Your Honor. Oh. That's great.
Uh,
Depending what you're looking at.